Let's talk about backwards planning when it comes to ELA and writing curriculum for the year. And what I mean by that is instead of tackling from the front end of here's what I really want to do first, and here's what I want to do second, and then kind of coming up on the next, quarter or something and saying, okay, what else do I want to do? What do we want to do next? I would not plan that way. I'm going to show you how I go from the opposite direction and then fill back in everything. And I'm going to show you my actual writing planner, and stick around because you are going to get a copy of it. I plan my year in a couple of different formats. And if you are homeschooling your student, it's the same thing. I would suggest that you divide up your year into 2 semesters, or if you want to do quarters or whatever. We do semesters, half the year and half the year. And within that, I typically will do 3 units within a semester, which tends to come out to be like a month-ish for each unit. That's kind of how I get my brain around it. And then I tell myself, well, okay, so within each unit, what is it that I want them to read and what do I want them to write? And those are the big picture things that I'm starting with. Sometimes these change order, sometimes, it kind of changes from here to there each year, and also has to do with who you're working with and what what the goals are for that. So it does change from time to time, but I really love starting my unit 1 out with fables and short stories because they're so accessible for kids right at the beginning of the year, and they can get so much success from it. And you can get a lot of good writing and like how to form a story, like basic story structure is so easy to comprehend in a fable. So it's a great one to start off with. You could do it at all levels. So any 4th, you could go all the way up to 8th grade and do fables and short stories. Then we went into a novel. And then on the right there, you'll see these are the essays. So the product that will come out at the very end of it. This is not the only writing that we're doing. Not at all. They also do an informational. And then for semester 2, we did, once we got back from the break, we did argument essay right when we got back. It was a great time of year to do that. They're ready to move into the big stuff. And it's not too far into the year where they're tired and want to go on break. So all of the pro-con arguments, all the articles that go with it, speeches, all that stuff, super fun to read those. And then they write their argument essay. And then we get into the meat of the year, which is all the, people writing about their own personal experiences. And I've talked in the last video about saving your narrative essay toward the end of the year because it takes all of the skills in the workshop to pull one together. And you will notice that their narrative essays are so much stronger at the end. I actually flipped it this way when, for a couple of years when I taught 8th grade, in our situation, they had every 8th grader writing their memoir, like every 8th grade at the school, might be statewide, had to write a memoir. And it was the very first thing that we did every year. And I noticed when we started off that I would get memoirs that were like, not good. They're so rambly. Sometimes they're like 25 pages because all they wanted to do was just diary dump, and there was no structure to it, or they would do something so basic just to get it over with. And they're so important, and it's something that they should build up to and be ready for. So strongly suggest doing it at the end of the year. And then we end the year kind of with more like high interest projects and presentations and that kind of stuff. So when you backwards plan, you want to start bigger picture. What are they reading and what are their products that they are writing? And then let's hop into the slides that I use to plan for the whole year. So now I'm going to show you my year-long writing plan. And the good news is that you will get a copy of this. So you'll have access to all the links and everything in here. And I did put in here a list of those essays in the order that I put them in every year. You'll also have some other links in here there's a video about essay order. There is a sample daily workshop schedule to however long it takes you each time, kind of shows you how to break that all down. You'll get that ELA at a glance plan, and you'll get a link to my website, which is where you are right now. And then also this one I have not talked about formally yet, but for homeschool parents, this will really help you a lot. It's a student-facing video channel that I've made. It's called Write with Robin. So if your child needs help with hooks or whatever, then put on your headphones and tell them, go listen to this video and learn from Robin. And I will walk them through the 6 skills. And then I'm also doing videos on write an essay with me and all that kind of stuff. So you'll get the support that you need there. And then here's kind of what it looks like. Basically, I put on each slide is 1 month, and there's 4 weeks in that month. So it doesn't go down to the minutia of the day to day, but I kind of know what I want to hit that week. And it starts out with, launching the workshop, introducing it, and then getting into the workshop lessons. And then there's links in there to videos for you, the instructor, and videos for your students. And then in September, we're doing more workshop. We're getting into CER writing. We're starting their fable story that they're writing. And sometimes I throw in a little compare and contrast quick essay in there where they're comparing poems or short stories or movies or something like that, just so they get the understanding of that structure. Depends on what the requirements are for that year. More workshop on vivid imagery, CER practice, back to hook. So I'll kind of cycle back around. It sort of depends on how the students are doing at that time. You can circle back whenever you see you need to go deeper. So I have mentor sentence activities in there as well. That will help you go deeper into a lesson. We move into our informative essays in November. And then when we come back, we're doing more workshop before our Christmas break. When we get back, that's when I sometimes will do a boot camp. So I have links to that as well, where they need to you need to make sure you're all caught up here and that you have all these skills in your belt, you know what they are. And then I definitely get them go back to hooks again in your workshop session right before the argument essay, because the hook part of it is super important for them to feel confident when they get into that part. And then we are more workshop, more constructive response, and then we move into finally our personal narrative at the end of February, back to more workshop writing, constructive response, and then state test prep, and then they're working on projects there at the end. So when they are doing the CER work, it's really important that you also use that for other subjects. So have them use claim, evidence, reasoning in their history assignments and their science assignments. You could even do it with math, so that they're doing it left and right in every direction all the time. And then they're used to it when it comes to essays. There's, a lot of the essay writing is me just reminding them, you already know how to do this. You've got this. It's not a problem. So you'll look below for a link to this one. I put just so you have a little blank template down here if you want to start building out your own and making it work for you. And then I want you to look a little bit deeper into grading and how the revision process works. And the video that I put up here is going to talk you through how much work do you put in as an instructor. For me, the most work that's done on their essays is done before it's ever turned in. I do very little work after they turn their essays in. And I know that sounds crazy. The grading process for me does not take that long because I've been doing so much of it on the way up to it. That's where the bulk of my work is. So you'll click on that link and learn about this revision process that I'll use, and I'll see you in the next one.